Blockbuster trade idea would land Saints $75 million star with Cowboys. Will the Dallas Cowboys add another running back? Dallas running game has gotten a lot of negative press this season. The Cowboys haven't had the success out of the backfield as they typically expect. Now, it could make sense to add another playmaker into the mix to hopefully add a boost. The Cowboys have the means to get a trade done, and Pro Football Talks' Mike Florio suggested that New Orleans Saints superstar Alvin Kamara could be a fit. The biggest name, and the most obvious candidate for a trade, is running back Alvin Kamara, Florio said. His contract carries a $25 million compensation package for 2025. He'll be released after the season without a revised deal. If that happens, the Saints will get no compensation. Why not trade him instead? Rodney Harrison and I kicked around some potential destinations during Friday's PFT Live. A case can be made for the Kansas City Chiefs, Buffalo Bills, Cincinnati Bengals, Denver Broncos, and Minnesota Vikings to be interested. The question is whether a contender is interested in giving up a draft pick or two for a part-season rental, plus playoffs with Kamara. Dallas hasn't had the start to the season as it hoped to have, and currently is 3-3. Landing someone like Kamara could only help. He signed a 5-year deal with the Saints worth $75 million, but it seems like his days with the Cowboys could be numbered. The Cowboys have said they are going all in on the 2024 season. It hasn't necessarily been the case so far, but landing Kamara definitely would be a step in that direction. Why former NFL player blames Dak Prescott for state of 3-3 Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys owner and general manager Jerry Jones has received a lot of criticism amid his team's 3-3 start to the campaign for not doing enough to bolster the roster this past offseason. During Friday's edition of the ESPN Get Up program, former NFL linebacker and current analyst Bart Scott suggested the 4-year contract extension reportedly worth $240 million with $231 million guaranteed that quarterback Dak Prescott received before the season is also to blame for Dallas' weaknesses on offense and defense. Part of the reason why this roster is so thin is because it was more important to Prescott to be the highest-paid quarterback in the NFL, and not leaving a little wiggle room for Jerry Jones to go out there and make some off-season moves, Scott explained. Scott's argument is somewhat helped by the fact that Prescott failed to live up to the value of his contract with his play over Dallas' first 6 games. According to ESPN stats, Prescott heads into the weekend ranked 26th in the NFL among qualified players with a 48.5 adjusted QBR and 25th with an 85.5 passer rating on the campaign. He's tied for the second most interceptions, 6, in the league, and has thus far thrown just 8 touchdown passes. Scott noted that quarterback Patrick Mahomes should be the highest-paid player in the league, but leaves a little bit on the table so the Kansas City Chiefs can hold on to fellow stars such as defensive tackle Chris Jones. If any one of those important players gets hurt, Scott added about Dallas' roster, his backup is so diminished. It's such a big difference between his backup that you can't be functional. ESPN's Todd Archer pointed out earlier this week that noteworthy Dallas players such as pass rusher Micah Parsons and defensive end DeMarcus Lawrence have missed time this fall due to injuries. However, Archer mentioned in that same piece that head coach Mike McCarthy acknowledged after Week 6 that sideline players returning to the lineup doesn't just solve all of the club's problems. Prescott and the Cowboys will get some rest during the bye before they play at the San Francisco 49ers on October 27th. 3-3 San Francisco hosts the 5-0 Chiefs this Sunday. Dallas Cowboys odds to win NFC Championship still give some home. Dallas Cowboys Nation has been gloomy throughout the week, from the embarrassing loss to the Detroit Lions to Jerry Jones going nuclear on the local media. While everyone is feeling down, it's not quite time to go into a full panic mode. The Cowboys sit at 3-3 on the season, just one game back from first place in the NFC East. The running game, lack of dynamic receiving game outside of CD Lamb, and inconsistency on defense is obviously cause for concern, but the team remains in the mix. Entering the weekend, the latest NFC Championship odds were released showing the season isn't a total loss. The San Francisco 49ers are favorites to win the conference, followed by the Detroit Lions. However, the Lions could close the gap with a little winning streak after the bye. It's easy to understand where Cowboys Nation has such little faith in Jerry Jones to do the right thing and provide some roster help, but the season is not yet a total loss. The Cowboys return to action on Sunday, October 27th, with a tough primetime matchup against the conference favorite 49ers. 3 questions and answers surrounding the Cowboys' short and long-term future. It's safe to say the Dallas Cowboys' 2024 season has not gotten off to the start that the organization hoped it would. Coming into the bye week with a 3-3 record before heading into the toughest part of their schedule is not something Dallas would have hoped for before the start of the season. There's as much uncertainty surrounding the Cowboys as a whole as there has been in years. The organization has plenty of short-term and long-term questions that will need to be answered in the coming months. With that in mind, today 3 of our writers tackle the task of answering some of the questions facing the Cowboys 6 games into the season and give their thoughts on what is to come. Let us know your thoughts on the questions in the comments section. 1. Dallas offense has looked out of sorts all season long. What do you believe is the biggest contributing factor to their lack of offensive success? What can they do to fix the problem? Howman, this is tough, because there's lots of things wrong with this offense right now. I think it all boils down to this group just not having any chemistry right now. Dak Prescott has shown great trust in Jalen Tolbert, but outside of that, everything feels disjointed. I think some of it is due to a lack of reps in the preseason, some due to rookies starting along the offensive line, and some due to the Cowboys having to play from behind in nearly all of their 3 home games. They just don't have any rhythm right now, and that's hard to just switch on. Hollerin'. There's plenty of ways you could go here, but I think the biggest issue is the offensive line, particularly their struggles in the run game. Against good teams, the Cowboys don't just have a bad running game, they have a horrendous rushing attack. You're not going to win many games against good teams when you force yourself to be completely one-dimensional. The Cowboys don't need to build their offense upon their rushing attack like this is 2016, but they need to be at least an average running team to make up for their lack of offensive weapons outside of CeeDee Lamb and Jake Ferguson. If they continue to have 0 success running the football, it's going to be a long season. Poland. The biggest issue facing the offense is the offensive line. Everything starts and finishes in the trenches, and unfortunately for Dallas, the line is failing. The offensive line is allowing the 9th most sacks and 7th most pressures. That's almost impossible for any quarterback to operate from. Then everyone complains about the running game. Again, that can be attributed to the offensive line. There's very little push or moments where the Cowboys' offensive line is being the aggressor in the run game. All this leads to an underperforming offense. Fix that and fix some of the offensive woes. 2. Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb have seemed out of sync from the start this year. The duo of all-pros have been at the center of plenty of Dallas offensive mistakes. What do you believe is the biggest reason the two are unable to get on the same page? Should the Cowboys be concerned about this long-term? Howman, I don't know if the Cowboys are concerned about it, but I am. Without knowing the intricacies of the Cowboys' playbook, I can't say with certainty who's to blame for all the miscommunication between these two. All I know is I don't see Dak having these issues with Tolbert or Ferguson or even Jalen Brooks. What I do see is Lamb routinely being soft at the catch point or getting taken out of the play when he matches up with a physical cornerback. With how much this offense revolves around Lamb, you just need a little more fight in him, and Lamb hasn't shown that this year. Hollerin'. If the Cowboys are going to turn this season around, it has to start with Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb getting back on the same page. It's easy to blame Lamb's lack of a training camp on their early season struggles, but there's a chance this goes much deeper. If I'm the Cowboys, the disconnect between the two is as worrisome as anything that has happened so far this season. The Cowboys are committed to both of these guys long-term, so there's no way out of this. Dallas needs the duo to get back on track not just for this season, but to have any semblance of optimism on offense heading into the coming years. Poland. We got asked this question last week and spoke to some members of the media team in Dallas. The answer was don't panic, and that the tandem are unified and working together. The biggest issue with the on-field production is the fact the pair missed an entire preseason and training camp regimen working together, meaning the first few weeks have been more like preseason for the pair. Even still, Lamb has connected with Dak for the 8th most receptions and has the 5th most receiving yards. 3. Dallas run defensive has been historically bad through 6 games. Will the return of Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence be enough to turn the run defense from awful to at least decent? If not, who is one outside addition you would like to see the Cowboys target to shore up their run defense? Howman. I'm not sure there's anyone out there that can fix this run defense right now because there's so many things wrong with it. Getting back to Marcus Lawrence, one of the best run defending edges in the league, will definitely help, but I've not been pleased with what the interior DL has shown. Motzie Smith has flashed, but he hasn't been consistent, while Linval Joseph just doesn't have the motor to sustain a large enough role in this defense. There aren't many home runs available right now, but two potential sleeper picks that might be available are Browns DT Dalvin Tomlinson and Panthers DT Ashawn Robinson. Hollerin'. The Cowboys' struggles to stop the run this season feel a whole lot like the issues they had back in 2020. Those problems didn't get solved until after the season when they hired a new defensive coordinator. Unfortunately, I think this year will follow suit. The returns of Micah Parsons, DeMarcus Lawrence, and Eric Kendricks will help, but it's still not going to be enough to turn the NFL's worst run defense into one that is even league average. Like it was in 2020, Dallas' struggles to stop the run will likely be their defense's Achilles heel. Poland. The run defense was bad while Parsons and Lawrence were on the field. This was a problem last year, and Mike Zimmer was supposed to be the answer to that problem. But the problem is this year it's only gotten worse. To help solve problem would mean trading, and for someone who can two-gap in the middle effectively and consistently. That trade is possible, but the front office will never go for it. They've proven in preseason and the start of the season they are unwilling to splash out, so it's hold on tight and take the ride for now.